I believe that how we do the work is as important as the work that we do. So basically, let me start by defining what is calling in. It is a way to get accountability by doing it with radical love. So basically, a calling in is a calling out done with radical love and respect so that you can achieve accountability, but you do so as if you're holding people's hearts in your hand. And this begins with giving each other the benefit of the doubt. Don't assume the worst. If somebody says a word that you don't agree with or shares a perspective that you don't agree with, and really, since we're all diverse people on the same human rights team, we're supposed to have differences of opinion with each other because calling in is this emerging practice that recognizes what matters most and that we need to invest in each other for our mutual growth and benefit. And you can do that with a simple calling in sentence of, when you said that word, I'm not sure if I understood what you meant by it. Do you mind if we go out and have coffee to talk about it? If you stay calm, you can ask people to explain themselves if you do so with love and respect and not accusation and judgmentalism. Calling in is a continuum, actually. It's not just a binary. You can call somebody out, and calling somebody out is an invitation to a fight, basically. Calling on is an intermediate step. That's where you make no investment in the person at all, but you are calling on them to be a better person or to do better. Calling in is what I'm mostly fond of, though, because when I'm doing a calling in, that means I'm committing to invest in somebody else's growth and helping to strengthen their emotional intelligence and my own emotional intelligence. So, the really important thing about calling in practices is understanding your circle of influence, or what I call don't waste your time. Most of us on this call, on this webinar today, are probably 90 percenters. We have a common language that we use. We have our common isms that we fight, like racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia. Our biggest problem as 90 percenters is that we're busy trying to turn the 90 percenters into 100 percenters. And that's why we spend so much time calling each other out, because we think that somehow people are supposed to be perfectly aligned in order to do work with each other. And that is a false narrative. It is an assumption because if people were perfectly aligned, we'd be clones. We wouldn't be the independent individuals that we are. Outside of our 90% bubble, that high unity bubble where we all agree on the isms, even though we have different strategies to work on them, are the 75 percenters. For me, as an abortion rights activist, the 75 percenters for me would be people like the Girl Scouts who work on women's empowerment and girls' empowerment, but probably wouldn't lead a troop to defend an abortion clinic, though I wish they would. Not only do they not use that 90% elite language that we use, but they're actually probably repelled by it when we try to impose it on them and criticize them and call them out for not being as woke as we are, because that happens a lot. Outside of the 75 percenters or the 50 percenters, these are people like my parents or people like your neighbors who could go either to the left or the right. And it's very important, if you're going to speak to those neighbors, to go underneath their words and discern what their values are and speak specifically to their values, so that you put in a parking lot somewhere the thing you heard that you thought you disagreed with or that offended you, so that you can actually try to understand why they're saying that word. That's the question that I want to ask of all 50 percenters when I'm coming from my 90% position trying to communicate with them. Okay, you believe that immigrants are bad for this country? What's going on with you and in your life that makes you believe that kind of inquiry? We can always respectfully make as a calling in practice. Outside of the 50 percenters or the 25 percenters, now, those of us who live in red state, this is probably the majority of the people who voted for Trump. I would argue that there's not a lot of common ground between me and a 90 percenter. But that doesn't mean that everybody in the 25% is a racist, is a Nazi, or anything like that. But they certainly hang out with the racists and the Nazis that are in the 0% thing. And and those are the people with whom I am unalterably opposed because they're trying to overthrow democracy. They do not believe in equality of people. They're openly Nazis and white supremacists. And so I don't even try to reach out to them because what's more likely to succeed is that as a 90 percenter, I can influence the 75 percenters, and the 75 percenters are more likely to influence the 50 percenters. The 50 percenters are more likely to influence the 25, and the 25 has a remote chance of influencing the zeros. But our problem over the last 50 years has been the influence hasn't been going from the left to the right, but from the right to the left. And so the 0 percenters are the ones that have marched their ideas around racism and white supremacy and sexism and transphobia and all that stuff from the margins to the center. And I think we spent too much time trying to flip the zeros into being strategic and reaching out to those that are more adjacent to us. And Karl Popper, I may be wrong and you may be right, and by an effort, we may get nearer to the truth. So you're